Hey there guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Odin, and today I wanted to bring you guys a no BS DPS guide for the Paladin, and I wanted to go ahead and go over the skills, the talents, as well as some of the base components that you're going to want to focus on to do the most damage in both PvP and PvE scenarios inside of Tarisland. So the way that the Paladin works is you're going to be essentially building up a enhancement meter and then unleashing one of two abilities for damaging effects. And let's go ahead and take a look at the skills so that you guys understand what the names of the skills are and how this is essentially going to work for when you guys start to do your rotation. So the first skill that the Paladin has is going to be Glory Strike, which is going to be what you're going to mainly use to build up your enhancement meter. And I'm going to go ahead and back out here and go to the test dummy so you guys see how this works. In the center of the screen, you guys will see there is the enhancement meter, which is in the shape of a double-sided axe. There is a right side and a left-hand side. Through that use of the Glory Strike, you're essentially building up that blue bar all the way up the middle. And then when you reach the top, you can essentially unleash that damaging effect. So as you guys see, the left hand side of that axe filled up, and that's going to allow you to essentially activate one of those two skills. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys really quickly. Again, you're just using your Glory Strike to fill up that meter, and then once you get that meter, then you can go ahead and activate one of the two skills. And as you guys saw there, once I finished up that skill to the left and moved over to the right, so now you'll see in the shape of the axe, there is the right side that is now lit up instead of the left hand side. So back to the skills. If you fill that bar all the way to the left, you're going to activate your Justice Thump. If you fill up that bar all the way to the right, you're going to activate your Judgment Strike. And depending on your talents, you can actually buff up the frequency of when you'll be able to use your Justice Thump or your Judgment Strike. Now, what do I mean by frequency? Typically on cooldown, your Justice Thump is going to be much quicker to cast than your Judgment Strike. So if you look at the cooldown there for Justice Thump, it's going to be 7.5 seconds, whereas Judgment Strike has a 9.3 second cooldown. So roughly a bit of a difference between the two. And then through your bonus stats or your attributes, you can go ahead and either reduce your cooldown or focus on building your other attributes to bring those skills so that you can use them a little bit better, or boost those skills through the talent tree to increase the damage that they deal. So that's pretty much the skills that you're going to be using for building up the accumulation of that bar, so that you can unleash either your Justice Thump or your Judgment Strike. And again, you're going to be using your Glory Strike, just going all the way up to build up that meter. Once it reaches one of those right hand sides and the axe is activated, then you go ahead and activate the skill that belongs to that side. So very nice and simple. Back to the skills here really quickly, guys. The main rotation that we're going to be using is going to be Trial of Rage first, because it is a burst enhancement skill. And what it does is just going to boost your crit rate and your attack for a short, brief period of time. And then it's going to allow you to do some pretty fast burst damage. And if you have been playing the Paladin for a while, you'll understand that pretty much the Paladin just solely relies on burst damage. The next skill that I'm going to go ahead and just show you guys really quickly here is going to be Disciplined Storm. Disciplined Storm is essentially going to work for PvE mainly. Some use this in PvP when your enemies are bunched up together, but this is essentially a group attack, meaning it is meant for an attack for when you have a lot of opponents surrounding you or near you. Again, it's mainly for AoE, so do keep in mind that you almost never want to use Disciplined Storm in any scenario where you're not really using any single target enemies. You're going to be using it only when you have more than one enemy against you. So again, the biggest thing you're going to want to start off with is going to be Trial of Rage, and then the next thing that you're going to use is going to be Shattering Slam. Shattering Slam is just a pretty large damage dealing attack, and you almost always want to use it whenever it is on cooldown, or off cooldown I should say. Whenever it's available, just go ahead and spam it. It's just a massive amount of damage that you can use, and it works for both group attack or single target. If you're against multiple amount of enemies, you're gonna want to use Shattering Slam once they're a little bit closer together. But if you're just dealing damage against the boss single target, it doesn't matter when you use it, just go ahead and use it whenever it's available. It's just a high damage burst skill that you always want to use. So, going into the rotation, you'd want to start off with Trial of Rage, move on to Shattering Slam, and then depending on where your bar and your enhancement meter is at, you either want to use your Glory Strike to build up your meter, or your Justice Thump if the skill is ready to be released or used. And then your Judgment Strike if that enhancement meter again is filled up to the top, either on the left or the right, switching between Judgment Strike and Justice Thump. So fairly simple. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that rotation here again really quickly. We're going to start off with, let me go back out of here. Trial of Rage, Shattering Slam, either Glory Strike, Justice Thump, or Judgment Strike. So very, very quick and simple. Trial of Rage, Shattering Slam, Glory Strike, or Justice Thump, or Justice Strike. So let's go ahead and do that. And one thing I forgot to mention, Justice Thump is going to be like your closer. Once your enemy is below, I believe it's 20, yeah, it says once HP is less than 25%, damage dealt by the skill will be doubled. So essentially, it's going to be the main skill you're going to want to use once your enemy's HP bar is below 25%, as it's going to give you a massive amount of damage boost on those enemies. So if you're looking for a closer, Justice Thump is going to be your closer. Judgment Strike is going to be as a filler whenever it's available, whenever your meter is up. So it does require a pretty high amount of concentration to keep a look at that meter to make sure that you are using those two skills, Judgment Strike or Justice Thump, whenever they're up and filled up in that hammer meter. So let me go ahead and do the DPS rotation here really quickly. So do that, then this, and use that, use this, that. And as you guys see, once you activate it twice on each side, it does rotate to the other one, so that you can essentially always maximize your skill. And what I recommend you guys to do for your Judgment Strike, because Judgment Strike has a little bit of a longer cooldown than Justice Thump, is to kind of always keep an eye on it, and then just use a Judgment Thump in between whenever your Justice Thump is available on cooldown. So, or your Judgment Strike is available on cooldown. So that's kind of like how you want to use it. You basically just want to keep building up your glory. Once that bar is full, or if depending on that side, you're gonna want to go ahead and use that skill. And whenever the bar is not filled up, you can use your Justice Thump, and then you release your Judgment Strike, just the way that I did there. Again, you're gonna build up your glory all the way up to the top. Go ahead and use it, and try to basically continue to use that rotation until almost all of your CDs are used up, and you guys can kind of see how that works. And like I said, you almost always want to keep those other cooldowns, or Shattering Slam on cooldown, Trial of Rage on cooldown, and then again, Discipline Storm, it works a little bit different. I'm going to talk about it right now, but it is for AoE only. So go ahead and explain to you guys a little bit how Discipline, or what is the name of the skill? Jesus, I'm already blanking out here. Discipline Storm. What it does is it actually reduces or consumes your glory, which is the blue power that you're building up on your hammer. So I'm going to go ahead and press Discipline Storm now, and you guys will see that blue bar in the middle essentially go down. So the way that you'd want to always use it is essentially alternating between Glory Strike to build it up and Discipline to use it. Glory Strike to build it up whenever it's on cooldown, and then Discipline. So that's pretty much your rotation for PvE, AoE damage. If you're facing down a lot of mobs, you're just going to build up and switch between Discipline and your glory all the way up to the top. So now that we've gone over that rotation and how these skills work, let's talk a little bit about the talent tree. The talent tree is going to be pretty straightforward. Most of these are going to buff your crit rate and your cooldowns, and also boost damage to your Glory Strike or your Justice Thump, and that because those are going to be your two big damage bursting abilities, and that's what you want to prioritize. The one thing that I do want to highlight specifically on the talent tree, because what I'll do is, you can pause the video here now and you can take a look at what I've used, but I've basically filled out most of these to the top. and then work my way down. And then once I got down here to the bottom, because we don't have all of the talent points available to fill up everything in the talent tree, you can get a little bit selective depending on the type of playstyle that you have. So one thing that I'll say is, again, that I do want to highlight is going to be the Field of Rage and the Trial of Rage. Trial of Rage is going to boost your Trial of Rage, and it's going to be a specific buff just for you. And all it does is going to reduce the amount of time that skill is on cooldown. But if you're in a PvE environment where you need to buff your raid or your group, you almost want to try to use Field of Rage, because it does provide 25% of your crit and attack to your nearby allies within a 25-meter radius. So that's really the only one that I think that you guys can basically choose, and alternate your setups between those two. Either you're buffing yourself or you're buffing your raid. 9 times out of 10, you almost want to use Field of Rage. And even in PvP, I noticed that sometimes it can benefit others. Because let's say that you're in a 3v3 match and your whole team is a damage dealer. So like, let's say you have a paladin, a necro, and a ranger. None of you guys are healers. So the benefit bonus of Field of Rage might benefit your teammates as well. So this might be something to consider. If you have, like, let's say 2 paladins and a rage or a ranger, then one of you guys might want to have Trial of Rage, and one of you guys might have Field Rage. So something to consider when you're building up your teammates and your team compositions. Try to take advantage of kind of swapping around some of your talents to help out your teammates as well, because that does go a very, very long way when you are doing PvP, and that's working together to kind of work that off. So the next thing that I'll go over really quickly is going to be the ultimate. The ultimate is going to be very situational for you guys. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but I will say that punishment is going to be one of the biggest ones that you almost always want to use. It's effective in PvP and PvE because it does provide you guys a way to interrupt any boss skills or enemy player skills. And if you also enhance it with some arena points, you can also get it to be a stun, which in arena does come very, very handy. I mean, who doesn't like being able to stun and silence at the same time? The next one that I prefer to use is going to be Scourge, because it is a buff that's essentially a wide area of effect that just knocks down enemy players. So it basically stuns your opponents for about 6 seconds. It's not really 6 seconds, it's more like 2 seconds in arenas. But it does work, and it's just a area stun. So very, very good in my opinion. And again, you can kind of buff that up to increase the duration of that stun for PvP. The other one that I really like is Breakout, because it also increases your movement speed while also allowing you to break out of slowing effects or area of effects that may hinder your character. And it also works against removing yourself out of stunts as well, so it's pretty good. Those are the 3 that I find most useful in PvP, but there are a couple others that, again, situational depending on where you are with your team compositions, might be helpful. If you have a healer in your team, you might want to use maybe Divine Might. If you don't have a healer in your team, you might want to use Divine Might, because it reduces the amount of damage you take. So, again, very situational. If you have a healer, I don't see too much of a need for it on anything that's related for PvP. For PvE, it might be useful, especially tanks. The other skill that I will also kind of highlight is going to be Earth Shattering. It does allow you to basically leap onto your opponent, wherever it may be. It's a 16-meter range, so you can basically just jump to your opponent immediately. And if you guys don't know this already, Paladin is definitely one of those short-range classes that you need to be up close to your enemy, which, given how there's so many range classes in the game right now, it can be a little challenging to get up close, but that does not mean that it's not, a good class. It's actually really good because of the high level burst damage that it's able to execute through the Justice Thump and the Judgment Strike. So take a keynote there, guys, to kind of pick your ultimates depending on your playstyle and your group composition. So just to go back to the basics, Justice is the spec for the DPS Paladin. There's really 2 talent tree suggestions that Core Logic, Tarisland essentially tells you to use. There's either Judgment Sword or Judgment Strike. I prefer to use Judgment Strike. In my opinion, it's dealing the most damage, or the most damage right now, because you're boosting your crit and your crit damage. So I think, in my opinion, is probably the best tree that you could use. It also reduces the cooldown of your skills, so definitely something that you guys want to build up and work on. So, and that's pretty much it, guys, for everything for the Paladin in a nutshell. Another thing that will go over is going to be the attributes. And let me go ahead and show you guys here. The current spec justice there on the right will tell you that you want to focus on your attributes with crit first, then omni, which is cooldown, then strength, focus, and stamina. And I'll say that that's pretty much very consistent with the way that the justice talent build does work. So you want to focus on your crit, then your cooldown, then your strength, focus, and stamina. For PvE and PvP, there's going to be a couple different ways that you could build again for your talent tree, but in general, I do believe this is kind of like the best setup for what you guys could use right now. And that's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you are new. Definitely let me know in the comment section down below if you found this guide useful. If you want to see more content like this, you know, or for one other specific class that you really want to see, let me know in the comment sections down below, and I'll make sure to make that my next video. Anyways, guys, that's it for this video. I'll see you all on the next one. Take it easy.